following strange story was related to me in September 2001 by a well-known Liverpool comedian whom I cannot identify. He stipulated that he would only relate the full facts of this bizarre story if I would never identify him. I shall therefore have to call the comedian Bob. In the early 1990s, a popular Liverpool comedian named Bob drove up the M62 to a Manchester club where he was due to perform a comedy routine as part of a cabaret show. As usual, Bob's performance was warmly received by the audience, and he decided to go back on stage for 20 minutes. While Bob performed as additional material, he noticed a beautiful-looking woman of about 25 to 30 years of age sitting at a table. She was smiling at Bob, and she reminded the comedian of a film actress named Farrah Fawcett-Majors. After the comedy act, Bob went backstage and changed. Then the manager of the club escorted him to a specially reserved table for a meal and a drink. Just before the next performer took to the stage, Bob went over to the table where the woman was sitting alone, and he offered her to join him. The woman smiled and accepted. She was very tall, and she looked even more attractive at closer quarters. She had sapphire blue eyes and long blonde hair. And in a soft, well-spoken voice she said, "My name's Danielle." Her accent was not a local one. Bob ordered champagne and was soon chatting up Danielle. The woman, however, preferred to sip mineral water. There was a stay behind at the club, and it wasn't long before Bob and Danielle were dancing slowly as they embraced each other. Bob had learned that Danielle's boyfriend had arranged to meet her at the club, but hadn't turned up for some reason. She said she lived in St. Helens, and Bob said that as she had not been drinking, she could drive him home to Merseyside in his car. Danielle had said Bob could stay overnight at her home until he was fit enough to drive in the morning. At 3 a.m, Bob and Danielle left the club in Manchester and walked through the chilly night air towards the club car park. Danielle shivered in her sleeveless top, so Bob gave her his leather jacket. Minutes later, the couple embarked on a return journey down the M62. Danielle had to strap Bob's seatbelt on him because he was so intoxicated. During the journey, Bob reached for the controls of the car radio, but Danielle's hand intercepted his, and so the couple sat in silence as the car sped along the motorway. Bob suddenly turned to look at Danielle, and he saw something that still gives him nightmares to this day. The girl's features changed into what can only be described as a demonic face. She turned to him, and her eyes turned blood red. Her mouth opened wide, twice as wide as a normal mouth, to reveal an array of pointed teeth. The comedian was suddenly sober. He felt faint and breathless with the shock. The girl driving his car was some sort of supernatural entity. The thing in his driving seat screamed with laughter and suicidally zigzagged between the lanes of the motorway. Bob was not a religious man, but he suddenly said, "Jesus, please save me." The car screeched into a 180-degree turn, and it slid off the hard shoulder onto a slip road where the vehicle veered into a ditch. Bob opened the door and tried to get out, but in the blind panic, he forgot to unclick his seatbelt. He shouted for help and looked at the seat beside him. It was empty, except for his leather jacket. There was no trace of the fiend that had been masquerading as a woman. The police found Bob wandering along the hard shoulder of the M62, and he told them about his bizarre tale, but he wasn't believed. The police checked the club, and the management confirmed that Bob had left with a woman and that she had driven him home. But not one person at the club knew who Danielle was. Bob was badly shaken by the spine-chilling incident, and he's never appeared at that Manchester club since.
The